Hi. Okay. So, Jesus, I had sound on my computer. Lovely echo. So let's ignore that. So I was away yesterday, pretty much. So I'm a little bit confused right now, but I'm going to just dive into a issue we got reported the other day. It's a null pointer dereference, and it's a bit weird. I haven't really investigated it yet. So let's just get into it. I have something wrong here. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Technicalities. So here's the issue. Here's the GitHub issue 38. Where's my browser? Boom. It's 3850. So this comes from Geeknik. I'm pretty sure he used some fuzzing method to get this fun string. Look at this, blah blah blah. Echo. Well, this is base 64 encoded. I guess since it contains some rubbish-like content. So if I just go to my little terminal here and I do the same thing. Oh, by the way, this terminal here, I just rerun configure with this configure command line. It is just to run the enable the threaded resolver, because I think he had the problem with the threaded resolver, so I just made sure that my build also have that. So I just ran that and rebuilt curl from git master then, so it actually says this 65 dev blah blah blah. It says async and there's no cares in the version string, so that's the correct build. And the debug says that he did this, so I'll just copy that command line, switch it over. Here's the terminal, so I'll just run that and it'll generate this file test000.curl with this nonsense looking command line. So I'll just then run his suggested command line and see that it actually misbehaves the way he said it does. Jay in the bug report over here, he also already down here, Jay commented an hour ago and he basically reproduced it. He got a assert here in asyn thread 471. I am pretty sure, or I'm counting on getting the same thing. There, I got it. There, so asyn thread 471. So with the threaded resolver backend, curl fires up a separate thread to do the name resolving thing in, and that's what this is, the separate thread for name resolving. So I'm just going to figure out what the heck it's doing. Bind local singular p blah blah blah. Just responding to IRC. Okay. Crash. Boom. Bang. It says here that's the it's always fun to run something that is generated by the by a fuzzer, because it gets so it's hard to understand exactly what it's doing. UR and int and do. That's do, right? So I think that's our option, command line option parser. It also deals with partial names in the on the command line, which is a bit I don't know. I thought it was a clever idea when I did it 20 years ago. I'm not so I'm not so sure anymore that I actually think it's a good idea. So, but it's still, that's the way it is now. So I wonder, what is the int here? What's that doing? Is that int? Yes, I guess it is. And okay. It gets to this point. Let me just rerun. GD. What happens at this point? Here's TD is 0. That is 0. Okay, but that was the first time, and the second time then. Cannot access memory. It didn't come from that. It comes from here, did it? I just need to look it again. Resolver wait resolve. Yes, waits for a resolve to finish. And at this point, let me set another breakpoint there instead and just start over. Run. Disable the first breakpoint. Run again. Bam. Alright, there's no... So... Why... I think there's a problem here. I think we're calling... I think it uses do to... Well, it sets up a do resolver, but it actually... So it uses do for resolving hostname, but it's built to use the threaded resolver, so it calls this function. But there's actually no thread going to do the resolve. Let me see if that might be true. In bind local. Let's see. No, it's not that, right? This is... This is... This is... It sets up... this is the int... yes, that's the option. The weird looking... It's okay. Now I realize this option int here in the config file. That's the interface option that you actually write like this. Interface. It makes curl bind the connection you set up. It binds the local end to that interface that you specify. So in this case, it specifies a 0. And if it's a 0, it tries to resolve it. So I'll put a breakpoint there and take a look. GDB. Oh, I had the GDB in the other tab. Here it is. GDB blah blah blah, and I'll set it on connect.c 360. So okay, it comes here. It says it wants to bind. No, it wants to resolve the 0. Wow. What happens here? It's said to use do to resolve the host name. Interesting, yes, because then it didn't start up the thread, right? And that is the problem here. Or yeah, I think it is. So it does. It resolves the hosting with do instead of the regular DNS, and of course it hasn't actually gotten a response yet here. And here, thread. Wait, I think I found this is it's really a bigger bug than just a null pointer dereference. We don't properly handle the case here where I think I'm confused here now. I'm considering how to do this when this is a when you specify that you use that command line option, but you've already also said to use do for resolving host names. So this is, if it resolves the host, yeah, it should resolve the host with do here. And it really doesn't. Ooh. So yes, that's the crux of the matter. Yes. And unfortunately, in this case here, it actually makes it a blocking resolve, or rather it'll do the invoke the resolve here, and it'll sit here blocking. Pain. Of course, an easy approach would be to just delay this and say that use the native for now for that option, since I haven't fixed Dobe. I'm not sure. Calls this. Checks if it's in the cache. If it's not, if it is, it is already resolved, then it can return that. Otherwise, if it's not, it'll call curl do. Yes. So curl do resolves the hostname using do. It resolves it and returns. It actually doesn't resolve it completely. It creates as a first stop, I think I'll disable do for the bind lookup. Possibly because that is what users are more likely to actually want. Since when if you use that option and you specify hostname, that is likely a local hostname. So arguably do would fail in more cases than you'd like. Let's add allow do. Wrong function. Curl resolve, and we add a allow. No, it's not. Hello, where is it? There it is. And a prototype in the header file. Let's copy the same. Allow do. If allow do, and there we go. Now we just need to update all those places where we actually call this function as well. So I'll just build and let the compiler point them out to me. In this case, it's the regular one, true, I'm pretty sure this is also bad. I mean, we can just as well set this to false, because this is an IP address, so it shouldn't actually resolve a host name. It should just convert the IP address that it has. Yeah, I think I think I would be very good at fixing Apache HTTP debugs. That would make me really productive. Or not. And if right, if we're over a proxy, we still have the should still be an IP address. Should still be an IP address. Then, so here's the case for the binding the local end. So I'll deny it there. Use this on quite a number of places. Let's set it to false for now. I don't think curl resolve. This curl resolver wait resolve, that's the one. If it's I'm trying to figure out exactly how big of a shortcoming this is right now. Because all of these are calling this. They are all doing it in a synchronous manner, and it doesn't work to do it synchronously right now. Because it'll call either of these functions, and none of them care for DO. So both of them are assuming they just resolve host names either natively or with the CARES. And so I'll do it like this. I'll just keep on adding false for the places where it really doesn't work, and then I need to make it a bigger change, because I'd rather have it actually work than just disable it. Now, of course, did I actually add true anywhere? They're all false, false, true. So that's the only place we actually allow DO to be used. Well, if I do it like this, at least, I'm just going to verify that I actually fixed the... Yeah, now it fixes the null the reference, and we get a proper error code back instead. So yeah, that is one way to not necessarily, well, I fixed the issue, but I also realized that the shortcoming here was bigger than I actually thought it would be. Yeah, this Emacs is very vanilla. Well, I just have a custom .emacs. I've disabled stuff. I don't use any menus or icons or anything, and I have a bunch of key bindings, but otherwise it's very vanilla. Exactly what I need. So this function is called on these places. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. And the FTP ones I think are fine because they are not actually resolving hostnames. They're just using the resolver functions, but they are resolving. They all have IP addresses. No, maybe not. By the way, one of them isn't an IP address. One of them is one connecting over a proxy. So one of them is the case, and there's 2 for socks. And there's that one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 places that should be fixed. But okay, I can do it in a 2-step thing. I think the immediate fix is to do this. Just disable do for when it doesn't actually work, or not try to do when it doesn't work anyway. And then the next step is to actually make sure that do is used or not disabled when it shouldn't be disabled. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's probably fine like that. Disable on functioning do. Do. Disable do for yeah, of course, and of course, I mean, do is. I knew that do would be slightly problematic since previously we had 3 different name resolver backends, and they're exclusive. You use one of these and none of the others, since they're build time. You set it up at build time, so you know that you use one of those when you resolve host names. And by adding do to the mix, it got complicated because now you can at runtime switch between one of the built-in name resolver backends and do. So I knew it would be complicated because it complicates the resolving backend in curl. So, clearly I hadn't really thought all these things through when I added my implementation. So now I get to suffer for it, or users get to suffer for it, or something. Fix is 3850. So okay, that's a pretty lame fix. So a better fix would be to actually make sure that curl resolve wait resolve. It should check, is it resolving with do? Don't do this. Do something else. Like wait for fire off the do request and wait for the response and everything. Yep, that's what it should do. I'm just not ready to bite that bullet right now. I think it's a little bit of a bigger change than I felt like doing. In my naivety, I thought it would just be a little null dereference stupidity somewhere. I would just add a check and I would be fine, but it turned out to be much worse than that. So that's me for that's what I get for thinking I can get away easy with something. The problem with it adds this do request. It's just a do resolve is just another HTTP request in the same multi-handle as the regular request. It just makes that the regular request just sits waiting until the do requests are done, and then the final one is performed. This function then, the curl do function, it adds two new easy handles and adds them to the multi-handle. So yeah, it can just perform. Let me do this. I'll start out by creating a pull request with a fix, because that's at least a fix. So, okay. Boom. This also highlights the cases where, what's the function called? Where the cases where do is called. There. Okay, that took me half an hour, but at least I fixed, I think, the issue in that particular issue. So it'll rust, and we have another reversion going, and I pushed a rebase of my. I haven't discussed this, I think, on the stream. So this is my branch for allowing a user to disable more features in libcurl. I'm going to announce a separate project of mine. Well, it's not a separate project, it's a separate project within curl called tinycurl, and I'm going to make a release of that on the wolfSSL site soon. And it's basically all of these patches that allow a user to build a curl with more features disabled, that is, with less features enabled. So it'll become smaller, a smaller footprint on disk and in memory. Yeah, that's the primary purpose for this patch set. 17 commits right now, and they actually also add a bunch of new defines that you can define to disable more features. And the point here then, as I said, is to make it possible to build an even smaller libcurl. And I also, in my tiny curl project, I have another patch set on top of this that also brings support to FreeRTOS. So I have this idea that I want to make curl with HTTPS support on a FreeRTOS target, which of course, I mean, specifically I'm working on a Cortex M4 target, and I want to make sure that curl and HTTPS support in 100K on disk. And I think I'm pretty much there. But this particular patch I'm looking at here, this patch set pull request, this doesn't contain any FreeRTOS work. This is just patches to make sure that you can build a more streamlined, more slimmed down, trimmed down libcurl. So with this patch set applied, and by setting some of these defines in the config file, I could make curl 130K on x86-64 with HTTPS support enabled using wolfSSL. But that's on x86-64, which has a really huge instruction set. So on one of those targets with tiny instruction sets like Cortex M series, I'm thinking I will be able to fit it in 100K. I haven't actually done it on a target yet. I have this target I showed the other day. Look, here it is. This is my little target that is supposed to run tiny curl, but I haven't actually accomplished that yet. So it has this thing. That's the M4 on it. Yeah, but I don't want to compile on a Pi. This is much more tinier things. This is a 1 megabyte flash on it, 1 megabyte. So I wanted to focus on these much tinier things than Linux running things. And it's no, I don't really have a big purpose for that. My goal here is to check and see how tiny I can actually make curl and make it run. Yeah, I can actually just verify how small it could become by building on a Pi, but I also want to make sure that it actually works with FreeRTOS, because I wanted to make an effort to get it small enough for some of these RTOS people to be able to use curl, since sometimes people tell me that curl is too big to use in these RTOS cases. Maybe it still is, but I still wanted to make an effort to see how small can I make it, and then also make sure that it actually works on these operating systems. And FreeRTOS is a fairly popular thing on tiny RTOSes, on tiny machines, where Linux is clearly too big or too resource intensive maybe. The only little downside with FreeRTOS is probably that it has nowadays it comes with a TCP/IP stack bundled, which is fine and makes things decent, but it's a funny TCP/IP stack, so it's not quite POSIX compatible. So I have to tweak curl a little bit to be able to actually use this API and work with it. So yeah, I know that curl builds with this API. I just haven't actually made it run on target yet. And I'm probably gonna cheat and release my tiny curl project even before I actually have it running on this target. On x86-64, it's then actually less than quarter of the size on that the binary is on my Debian installation. So it's still quite a bit smaller than the original, at least. On a regular 32-bit ARM Debian, curl is 60% of the x86-64 size. So I'm counting that regular ARM is roughly 60%. Yeah, the Rom requirements is another question. So I haven't really got into that yet, but I'm going to work on that. Sure, I'm sure that SSL or TLS is a tough challenge for embedded and real-time operating systems, but it's still a reality that they basically have to use it. So if hard, sure. Impossible, no. And I work for wolfSSL, right? And wolfSSL's one of the primary areas where wolfSSL really has an edge and really has customers is within embedded systems, and especially then these tiny embedded systems. So it certainly is. There certainly are a lot of users doing TLS on embedded systems, and even on these really tiny embedded systems. So TLS is there already, and the wolfSSL can be made really small for one of these embedded devices. But now I wanted to make sure that we can actually also run curl on these devices, and I wanted to make sure that the API and ABI is pretty much the same, so that a libcurl example, you could take it from the website, compile it on this little thing here, and it should run. That's at least the goal here. So I think that would be powerful, because then you could run the same libcurl code on from whatever big machines down to these fairly small machines. And of course, I'm also sure that 100K might also be too big for some targets, but still, if you can't spend 100K, then I guess it's not a niche for curl really. Because if you're going for smaller than that, then you really have to sacrifice APIs. You probably have to sacrifice other standard, how to handle things. You can write an easy basic HP client in much smaller size than that, but then you have to give up features and functionality, and yeah. Okay, where am I? I'm just talking. So that's this patch set, and I'm also making sure in this case all these patches, these 17 commits here, they don't actually change anything in a default curl. So what I wanted to make sure here is that I provide the ability to switch off a lot of features without doing it. So I'm just making sure here that nothing actually breaks with this patch set. So I can provide this patch set that will allow users to disable much more features. And actually going forward, I've been thinking, and I want to provide a better way for users to actually build customized libcurl with, since now we can disable, I think, all protocols one by one, and there are 20 protocols, and you can disable a lot of other features. So maybe there are 30 things you can switch off in libcurl. So I'm thinking maybe I should get something menu make config thing, like inspired by the Linux kernel or something like that, so that you can get a better get something that makes it easier for users to build customized libcurl versions. So I want to build with this enabled, that disabled, blah blah blah. But I've just thought about it. I haven't done anything. Right now you have to set the defines for things you want to disable. And of course enable as well, but if you don't enable some of the things, it just won't be there. Like a lot of protocols depend on third-party libraries, and if the third-party libraries aren't there, we can't run the protocols, so then the protocols will be disabled. Okay. So I'll leave it at that and go back to work on my tiny curl thing here to get it running on this little board, an ST micro thing. I just wanted to debug that null pointer anyway. So I probably won't stream anything tomorrow because I have another presentation to do tomorrow. So the little time I don't do presentation tomorrow, I'll probably focus on other things. But I think next week I'll be at home the whole week, so let's do some streaming if I come up with some fun things to do. Maybe, or I'm pretty sure that this dough thing that I just fixed here, I will take the next step and dig in and fix this proper. So maybe I'll get on with that on Monday, Tuesday, something next week, and I'll probably start in the morning. I'll set up an event and I'll let you all know in due time when I figure that out. And until then, curl safely and see you later.